Hello everyone, my name is Yanilis Romero and I am from Colombia. I am an English teacher and I'm really happy to be part of the Learning Revolution presenting the Emergency Home Learning and More Summit 2020. To start, I'm going to share with you some information about me. Who's Yanilis Romero? I'm an English teacher who have been working at a university for around 15 years now, but I also work in a high school and I've been working in that high school for about 12 years. Throughout my experience, I've been given the chance to work as well with kindergartens and with others in different English language centers. Throughout all of my experience, one of my biggest concerns have been to see what is the best approach to really embrace all of my learners into one single setting, into one single approach, which is not a difficult task to do if you think about the multiplicity and the diverse styles of language learners and also the diverse different types of students you have. Also bearing in mind their different realities. That is a big task to do. And as a teacher, I'm really committed to do so. So, to start, I'm going to start saying that these digital inclusive practices have been the result of my own teaching experience during these times. We all know that the education and the concept and the picture that we have from education have been changed thanks to the COVID-19. That portray where we see a teacher in front of a board writing, and we also see 5 or 7 lines full of students with paper and pen is not anymore the reality of education. In many countries, teachers have been pushed to explore different ways to reach their students and to keep up the good work by giving them different chances to students and families to approach learning. One of the biggest things that I also want to share with this talk is that this experience can be useful for you. It depends if you adapt them, if you look at them with wise eyes to see what is the effectiveness of those and probably select the ones that are good and useful for you. Inclusive practices in COVID times have been one of the biggest concerns because I've been researching about how to approach specific learning needs into an English class, mostly, which is not only my best experience. I have also had students with who have been deaf and mute, with probably cognitive learning difficulties, also with physical impairments. So that wide variety of difficulties have also taught me how to be a better teacher. But all of those experiences have been mostly in face-to-face, real-time into a classroom. So up to now, and after the COVID-19, I already knew what type of students I had before coming into this new phase or into this new implementation of teaching. Right now, I have students with reading difficulties, but I also have students with a slow reading or pace of learning. So with those students, I've been implementing these kind of strategies that I'm going to share with you and that I also know that have been useful with other different students. To be a teacher about to be a good teacher in these times, I really think you have to feel a superhero because being a teacher is right now more of a social commitment because it also involves more of your personal and your emotional part. So come with me and enjoy. My biggest concern, as I told you before, was how to just have all my students all into my teaching process. To do that, I really established and experienced different approaches. The communicative one, the task-based learning, the problem-based learning, which I'm not saying that they are not good enough. They all have advantages and benefits for the students. But right now, I'm married with the multisensory approach because it also helps me to promote different abilities from my students especially now that I'm teaching virtually or remotely, okay? My experience right now is that half of the population in my school are able to come and meet me every week to be able to teach and give them the chance to explain something, to share, ask them questions, to come back to me, listen to me in different ways. The rest of the students, which is another 50%, okay, they are all given different guidelines to have the same opportunity. What is the way we do it? Well, I'm going to let you know. We write and design what we call guides of learning. Those guides have three different elements, okay? Number one is that we are just going back to what students know to activate previous knowledge under schemata. And those ones have been done through especially reading, okay? But also we give them the chance to listen to our voice to activate that knowledge. The second part of those learning guides are presenting the knowledge, and we do it obviously with different kinds of layouts, different fonts, different colors. And the last part is about exploring what they know. We also follow the Hassie model talk proposed by Harvard, where the teacher does the first part, then the teacher invites the students to do the second part, and finally the student is induced to do the final product or the outcome of the class. To do such a thing, we have also brought, see, the multisensory approach, because the multisensory approach gives you different advantages. And one of those, which I think is powerful, is that it stimulates the brain. The multisensory approach is based on activating all the senses possible when you are teaching your student. Your eyes, your your touch, okay, your sight, your hear, okay, everything possible around, just to let your student know how to experience the learning instead of just being part of the class. We also want to provide our students with a different role, okay? And we do this not only in sessions where we see the students, but also in sessions where we don't see them, but we know they are there. And I will tell you more about it. Another advantage of the multisensory approach is that it improves essential functioning of the brain, which is kind of amazing because we are also motivating our students to explore different parts of the brain. And finally, students are more involved and engaged in the teaching and learning process of the every lesson. So I'm going to start with the strategy number one. The strategy number one was designed mostly with students with reading specific disabilities. These students who have really difficult levels of comprehension, we treat them differently. And we do also what it is commonly known as differentiated instruction. With all the students with learning guides, they don't have the same content. Students with these reading difficulties, they are given short text, also different number of comprehension questions. For those ones, they also have underlined words, and they are provided into these learning guides also with a vocabulary in English and also in Spanish. That is strategy number one, related especially with students with reading difficulties. With the students who don't have this kind of difficulties, they are given text, also accompanied with images, okay? Probably their texts are completely long, but the ones who have reading specific disabilities, they are given text with less, listen to me, with less lines and obviously with the less number of questions, okay? For strategy number two, and this one is really amazing because in my teaching setting, all the families don't have access to internet. So WhatsApp is an app that is available and is free for all Colombians who get a smartphone, which today a smartphone is essential in every house. So the strategy number two is about using WhatsApp to communicate and have groups, especially with parents and also with students. We channelize all the information through WhatsApp, and we provide extra information to parents so they know what is exactly the process that we teachers are carrying out, and also to interact with the students. So I was telling you at the beginning that students didn't, that not all of my students had the chance to meet me, right? Not even with, through Meet, or through another platform like Zoom. So how we approach them, how do we just get to them? Through WhatsApp. And I'm really happy to tell you that this has been the most effective way to probably talk to the students, talk to the parents, let everybody know where we are, how we're going, where are we going to be, okay? And also, is like the quickest way to really solve a problem with a student. If that student is having any trouble, any difficulty, even a health problem, you would know right away, because WhatsApp would be a good way to let you know right after an instant or just right after a message. And that is really important. Probably, and there are some disadvantages to this, is that parents are told how to do it and when to do it. We set rules to let parents know exactly when to be when to be able to talk to teachers, and when to be able to reach other people like the coordinator, like the school principal. But that is also part of the education that you as teacher need to have in order to involve everyone in the process. Something that is good also to know is that this one is free, reachable, and is good to exchange ideas. And it really provides a lot of advantages for teachers, students, and parents. So, strategy number 3, through the WhatsApp, what I do with the students who don't come to the classes is that I record my voice. Every time I'm teaching something new, like a listening, or I'm doing a listening exercise, I'm recording my own voice, and I'm recording my own face if necessary, to send students little messages, which I do split into different parts. In my school setting, where my teaching practice is now occurring, is being taking place, I have 4 hours to teach my students. So in those 2 hours, which is a block, that's the way we call it, in those 2 hours, I'm able to interact with the students. I can ask them questions. They can reply to me. I can also send them voice notes and ask them to reply to my questions orally, so they would record their voice. And why is this inclusive? Because every time I want to really emphasize a message, what I do is that I use high pitch or low pitches in order to focus on some expressions. An example, if I'm teaching my students how to really ask for the menu. So I use high tones of voice or low tones of voice depending on what I would like to highlight. And this is a really good strategy for them because they are also used to my voice. So it would be easy for them to identify exactly what is my intention, what is behind it. So, and I am also activating their hearing as well as their sight every time they're reading to me. And that's really useful. And so far, it has been a good way to interact with those students who have not been able to meet me in a live session through WhatsApp, Skype, or Google Meet. Strategy number 4. One For the strategy number 4, I would really advise you to use a wide range of activities. Those activities can really be involved with hands, something to do with hands at work, at home. For example, ask your students to cut out something, to paint something, to use chalk and probably draw something on the floor, to have I don't know, maybe a self-portrait, okay? Think of what are your possibilities depending on your content to really have your students do something in the house. Also, try to have them talk with somebody from the house. It could be their mother, their father, their cousin, their relative, their uncle. And some of the examples that I can provide you now is that I would ask my student if I'm teaching something with ing, I would just ask them to please, if I'm working especially with the students who do not connect with me, who do not meet me through Zoom or all the other any other of this platform, I would ask them to write an example or to write several actions, okay, and highlighting or putting in bold font exactly highlighting some of these kind of actions. I would also give them the chance to record some pieces of actions from the family and explain in a note voice what are they seeing. I would also ask them to write something, let's say family of words, and probably I would just say the word, for example, comfort, and then comfort will be in red, comfortable would be in blue, uncomfortable would be in a different color, so they would see what is the root and what are other words familiar to those ones, and probably they would post them behind the door or somewhere where they can see it frequently, because that would be a way to just keep them in mind, to remember something or to remind them about some kind of content. And that is something that is really, really useful for you guys. As teachers, you can probably explore those kind of activities. For strategy number 5, which is another one, remember that I'm just letting you know different kinds of strategies depending exactly on what kind of teaching you're having, virtually or remotely. And you can implement both of them if you think carefully how to put them into practice depending on the content you're teaching. For strategy number 5, I'm just probably bringing here some activities that I do while I am in class, and you can do it both remotely or virtually. I ask my students to close their eyes and probably draw, okay, in the air something. And you can use this activity even to as an icebreaker. You have the chance to talk to that student and tell the students, I'm going to work with adjective or with words or with any kind of different thing. And that would be something that a student would draw, for example, the letter, or if you want them to probably draw like a fruit, okay, something to start with. Or if you want to dictate something and other students are drawing for you, okay? That would be something nice to do. And if they have their eyes closed, they would activate mostly their ears or their hearing, and that is really useful for your student if they are learning, especially if they have specific learning needs. Also, if you're teaching structure, formulas, or vocabulary use, I want you to use colors, as I told you before, because colors can be really good and useful to have color coding, and the students would remember more if that part of the brain is activated. Also provide learners with opportunities to say what they like from what they have done, and use different font size, presenting text, presenting any kinds of different content, presenting any kind of different exercises. I haven't said that before, but the way I assess my student varies because it would depend a lot on the type of material I'm providing. So I could assess my student if I am providing them with their participation, also their kind of production, also the way they are sending different things, but I do also have and space for them to write anonymously what is good from the class, what can be improved from the class, and in another way, in another Padlet, I would ask them to do how they feel part of the class, if the class have been effectively executed for him, how can I as teacher improve, and those opinions also help me to reflect and see my teaching process as something where I can grow constantly. Some pedagogical implications that I have had from all this experience so far, and I've been teaching remotely and virtually for around 7 months, is that WhatsApp does work in general for students who can meet you and for students who cannot meet you as a teacher. That is also a good way to reach parents and to possibly talk to them about students' strengths, student weaknesses, difficulties of the process, and obviously be more in contact and involve three these three elements of the teaching. In this case, families, students, and the teachers all in the same level. Obviously, as I told you before, you have to establish a set of rules where students and parents are able to abide. For example, talk to you during working office hours. If you want to interact with the students, they should be also during these times. They would also send homework either through WhatsApp or email at certain times during the day as well. Another platform that I use effectively is Google Classroom. And that is something that I need to say. All my students didn't know about Google Classroom until we started with this new strategy of COVID times and teaching remotely or virtually. So it's been a really good progress for my student because these times of teaching virtually and remotely have also taught their families and students how to use different alternative and platforms and apps and different things. I also send tutorials, video tutorials with my voice and face, so my students are familiar to my voice and face, and that would help them feel more related to what they are learning. If they see different videos from YouTube where there is a different topic or the topic you want to teach, but that person doesn't really know how to approach your students in the way you as teacher do, I really advise you to record video, like explanatory videos, where you know how to, what is the trick to teach your student. In my case, I do repeat sentences that I want them to remember. If I find something that is crucial, something that is indispensable for them to remember, I repeat it at least 3 times. I also make memorable moments in which I just let them know something like, you need to do this to probably do this, or to have like a contraction. Don't remember to use an apostrophe T. And I do it like with a kind of a rhythm. So my students would remember that kind of rhythm even when they finish watching the video. And those videos are available in YouTube, in my YouTube channel for them to see as many times as they want. The reinforcement of my voice would help them a lot to have like sensory footprint in their brain, and obviously that will be memorable for them to remember even after the class is over. So with those pedagogical implications, some of the results in my own teaching and learning process have been that 90% of my students, they do send their homework, they do have the chance to talk to the teacher, 90% of them. Even taking into account that 50% of my population don't have digital tools to meet me and others do, 90% of them are connected to the teacher. 93%, okay, get a positive feedback. When I'm giving feedback, and I told you before in terms of assessment and evaluation, I do let my students know that they are valuable, that what they are doing is really significant for me as teachers. And even if they have to do something over again, what I do at the beginning is to start by giving them the strength, the good points and aspects of their work, because that's the most important thing. That even despite their difficulties, despite their problems, which they are facing different realities, I am highly valuing their efforts to send their homework, assignments, and any other kind of requirements. Parents are satisfied with the teaching learning process so far. The feedback that I've gotten from them through different means like voice notes or messages have been quite positively, which I think it's something that really encouraged me to really start thinking of what I should do better the next day in order to improve my own teaching practice. I share these outcomes once the term is finished, that means that I am constantly giving some feedback of this process to the students, but also to parents. So all the outcomes I'm sharing with them. So I'm letting them know this is good with your daughter or your son. We need to probably improve this. I would really need your help on that. Okay, but I'm also having a positive feedback. Like I am trying to avoid the use of negative words, okay? I'm always letting them know how valuable they are because I am thinking that the COVID generation educated in this new mode are gonna be blessed, but they're going to be also probably having different traces or marks from this kind of education. And 90% of my students, okay, are getting better marks, and their academic performance have improved, okay, once we started this, which is different from the normal education one, because when we are in normal setting, approximately around 75% of my students, 75, 80, it would vary a bit, okay, are really getting good scores. But now to be able to say that 94% of my students are getting good score, that's really something relevant to mention, and it would be something to study, something that deserves research. Okay, a final thought, and I'm gonna read it for you, but I really want you to keep this in mind because I really think we as teachers are having a key role in society. Okay, during the COVID times and after the COVID times and before the COVID times, we teachers have the power to change the world. It says teachers can shape humans' mind. They can transform a whole world with words and love. If you're a teacher, think of your superpowers and use them to change what needs to be changed. Start now. Thank you so much. I am from Colombia. If you have questions, something you want to share, okay, or probably something you want to say, this will be the best way. Probably you can write down your comments or your questions or suggestions, or you can contact me, and probably that would be a better way to keep exchanging and sharing experiences where we all, as teachers from the world, embracing one single mission, can be connected. I'm really happy once again to share with you my knowledge and my experience about these digital inclusive practices. And I will finish up by exemplifying one of my videos in the YouTube channel, which you are going to see next. Well, to finish with this talk, I am here. My channel is called Jaimba, and here you are going to be able to see some of the videos I have produced throughout all this pandemic time, and I've been able to probably produce also and post here some of the products of my students with all these kind of strategies, which I think are very inclusive, and that it helps me to approach all my students, the ones who are really committed, the ones who don't have the chance to probably meet me. It's been a really good experience, and I really invite teachers to think about what is the best way to approach your community, especially those one who really struggle with specific learning difficulties. Those ones with reading, those ones with probably, I don't know, maybe with numbers. Think about those. Use colors, use strategies with your voice, shoot short videos, okay? really make memorable noise voids, emphasize several times, okay? Raise your voice, use your body language in the videos, in the meetings to let the students know what they are doing, what you are doing, what they are learning, why they are doing it, okay? Assign a role to your students to do something at home. And above and on top of that, think about your student as a human being. So constantly have positive feedback with them. Okay. In this COVID time, it is also important to bear your students' health, mental health, and the way they are approaching you and your teaching process, because those two things are really key and fundamental to have your students on board continue with their own process. We as teachers are all invited to continue having inclusive practices, even digitally or in person, because this is our role. Don't forget, we teachers have in our hands the change and the future of the world. If we want to continue having a place to live, a place to enjoy, something to smile about, we need to continue being committed to what we do every day. Thank you so much. I hope you'll have really enjoyed the talk, and you have also the chance to talk to me through the emails that I posted before. Thank you so much once again. Bye.